Welcome back to Marketing That Pops. I am Olivia
I'm Michelle.
and today we have Daniel from NOBO Dispensary with us today. He has over 15 years of experience in digital marketing. He's very passionate about creating and executing integrated strategies, and we're just excited to have you in the digital space with us this morning. NOBO is the winner of the Michigan Green for Best Gummies and Best Indica Flower, and the Best Recreational Dispensary with deals. So I know you guys have I think you have 5 dispensaries in Michigan, 1 in Colorado, and then hopefully more.
Nope. 4 in Michigan and just a wholesale grow in Colorado at this point.
Okay, beautiful. We are excited to have you on the pod today.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm excited. And NOBO is just down the street from us because we're on Apple Avenue, and it's just like a few blocks down the road. And I have visited as well, and it's really nice. So it's good to see it like popping. And I like your digital sign too, how it is always adding new features. And
Well, Apple Avenue is a place that you got to stand out, so that sign sort of helps us on that road. So and it points out some of the fun about cannabis marketing is that we can't say a lot directly about the product. So a gas station's going to tell you they got gas at $3.79 a gallon. I can't tell you how much a pre-roll is. I can tell you I have pre-rolls, but I can't tell you anything else. So it's part of the joy, the confines, the frustration we deal with cannabis marketing, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You have to be creative, right? And
definitely.
So Daniel, every episode, I know you've listened to a couple episodes, but we like to debunk a myth. And so today, what we'd like to ask you specifically is, what do you think about someone having to be a cannabis connoisseur in order to shop at a dispensary? What do you have to say to that?
Absolutely not. With dispensaries, you don't have to be a wine connoisseur to go into a liquor store. You don't have to know everything about beer to go get a beer. And same thing with cannabis. And now that it's become in Michigan and several other states, obviously legalized, it opens it up to people who, don't know a lot about it, want to know a lot about it, may not want to know anything about it, but like the effect of it. So you can be CEO mom that's looking to take an edge off at night and said, hey, I'm going to compliment my red wine. You can be CFO mom and want to enhance a concert experience, and you don't have to know about terpenes, cannabinoids. You don't need to know anything like that. All you need to know is, hey, I like a grape flavored gummy, and I'm going to a concert, so I want to be up. Or, hey, yeah, stressful day, I want some help sleeping or chilling. And you can know nothing. At the same point, if you do know a lot about it, most of the bud tenders you'll encounter are fans, are connoisseurs, know about it and want to engage. And we train our bud tenders that you want to learn from the customers too. This has been such a closeted industry for a long time. People have been doing this at home and grown their own knowledge. Now they can share it, and this provides an opportunity to be a connoisseur of cannabis and go into a dispensary. But by no means do you have to be a connoisseur of cannabis to get the full effect of even shopping for it.
I know there's always so much stigma around cannabis. Have you noticed that it's like now there's kind of having this incline of destigmatizing cannabis to, like you said, those CEOs, those businesswomen, maybe the soccer moms?
We're seeing it, to be honest with you, a lot slower than I expected. In states that it's legal, you would hope that it would. If I walk into your houses right now, probably there's a bottle of wine or two on the counter, in the fridge, there's a 6-pack of beer. But if I ask for your cannabis, you're going to have to go dig it out of the underwear drawer or the locked box somewhere else. And so we haven't gotten there yet. And I think old habits die hard, and if you have kids or whatever, you may not feel so scared that they see the beer can in the refrigerator, but heaven forbid they see a gummy jar sitting on the island in the kitchen and you freak out. So we're not there yet, but I think by having the conversations, having the podcasts, having it just available gets people talking about it more.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a lot of like older people like in Michigan coming into your dispensaries that maybe haven't tried it before and want to learn? Like, are they like intrigued and curious about like, what is this all about?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are people of all walks of life who've never tried it and want to come in. And I think you get to an aging population that is thrust into pharmaceutical solutions to everything. I want to maybe take a step back and say, hey, my grandson or my son tells me I should take a gummy with CBD and THC and it's going to help me sleep, but I'm not going to have any of the effects of big pharma. You also have a lot of people who experimented when they were younger, stepped away from it because it was illegal. They didn't want to ruin their careers. They didn't want to be, profiled as a drug user who, used to get it from the guy down the hall in the dorm that had it in a Ziploc bag. And now they can walk into a store and get it. And they like that expression of it. They remember what it felt like and, they can do it legally. So I think, it harkens back to that and it gets, an older population into, the recreational side of it, as well as some of the medicinal side of, hey, it's going to cut anxiety. It's going to help me sleep. It's going to give me a little bit of energy and I don't have that hangover effect. And I don't feel like I'm putting pollutants in my body. At the end of the day, it's in most cases, it's an oil or leaf from the plant. You can't get much better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I've talked to a lot of people and, I'm in my 50s. So like back in the day, it was like, no, you can't, you don't do this. So you're programmed that this is bad. This is bad. And it's just like, what? It's legal. Now it's okay. And so just trying to like now reprogram your brain that it's not a bad thing. It's okay. It's cool. So
I'll tell you a funny anecdote is, look, I've worked in cannabis for 5 years. I have a son who's now 23, but when he's 21, he came home and he said, hey, Dad, what dispensary should I go to? And it took me back because I'd spent my whole life programming him, not that it's bad, but wait till you're 21. And then all of a sudden he's 21, he's legal, he can make his own choice, like, and reprogramming myself to accept that he can go and kind of rewriting the rules under our roof and all of those things. Again, I would say, you don't have the same attitude as much towards alcohol. You don't think about that. But it was just very interesting that way. I very much the same, Michelle, as like I was programmed, it's drugs, it's bad, it's all that. And then you're like, wait a second, it's not. And, getting over that is always going to be the interesting part that our industry faces.
Right. Right. And I remember my kids like in high school, I was just assuming they were going to be drinking when they are going out. And then all of a sudden it's, no, we don't do that anymore. We do this. And I'm like, what? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad. That's bad. So it's just like kind of like weird how times change and
Well, and it's one of the debates, and then Olivia, I'll let you get back on track. But
Oh no, you're good.
It's one of the debates I always have with people. They're like, "Oh, I'd much rather have my kid drink," and I'm always the one who puts my hand up and say, "You know what? I'd rather have my kid use a gummy and get a high from this. Their next day isn't ruined. There isn't a hangover. We're still studying the effects of marijuana to the body, so I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's nothing. But look, we know what alcohol does to the body. We know what happens. And to be honest with you, I would much prefer, and I do much prefer my kids to use cannabis responsibly, wisely, of age, and all of those things, than really go out on a drinking binge and get blackout drunk. And that's the discussion I have with people. And some parents are like, oh my God, you're wanting them to use drugs. I'm like, really? Alcohol versus a discussion as old as time, and I'm not going to get into it. So that's
right.
Yeah. You touched on this a little bit, just about how many stores that you guys have been opening in. I think the last time you talked to Michelle, you were probably opening up the Muskegon location. So how has that been going? Because I mean, the market here has kind of gone through a couple of different cycles, I'll say. So how do you think it's been going for you?
I'll let you in on a little secret. Michigan is a huge state. And we're in more or less all of Southwest Michigan, from Muskegon down on the southwest side, and each community is so different. You know, where we're in Benton Harbor, we're in South Haven, we're in Edwardsburg, which is on the border with Indiana, and they're in Muskegon. And so we just see that the customers, different products sell better in each store, how the consumer shops for the product, how they consume, it's radically different. And so you think you can have a blanket marketing statement across the state, and we really have to cater to the community in Muskegon, how they shop, what they buy, when they buy. And so that was a little bit different, as Muskegon was our second store, and it was a lot different than Edwardsburg, which is more on the border in Southwest. So I would say it was eye-opening. It was fun. It's good to get to know the consumer and how the consumer shops. It is a different consumer than in any of our other cities. It's a lot more value oriented, you know, and so you really have to look at the inventory we carry, how we pricing, how we promote deals to really get to them and deliver the solution that they want.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we've had so many conversations about really understanding your market and who you're targeting, really. And so just like you said, like, it really depends. You have these same dispensaries essentially, but the demographics might be different, and what they value and what they want is completely different. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, cannabis really used to be, especially in Colorado, where we've had it for 10 years, it used to be if you build it, they will come. And now in Michigan, yes, if you build it, they will come, but they're going to come very particularly looking for something specific, looking for specific price point, product, whatever. And so you really have to get, I would say the smart marketer really wants to get to know their audience, understand how they shop, what they look for, how they buy, versus just, okay, the doors are open, we sell cannabis.
Yeah.
What are the tactics do you feel like people should go or use, like, when they're looking at those demographics, as far as, like, is it just like, you know, what product is moving, or are you looking at, like, we tried this marketing tactic, and, you know, this one seems to be serving us better, and you're, like, just changing strategies that way?
A lot of it is, believe it or not, looking outside the realm of cannabis.
Mm.
Where does the customer of Muskegon shop? What are they buying? How are they buying? You know, what is the influence of shopping around payday, right? What is the shopping around the first of the month? So you really have to look at that just to give a general understanding of the consumer. Then you have to look at all of your available channels. And when we start out, you try all of your channels to see which ones stick. You get rid of the ones that don't, and then you add a little bit of fire to the ones that do, and kind of refine the message a lot more. One of the things that we find is that our Muskegon audience is a lot less responsive to, like, text messages than our audience at our other stores. So we have to understand that. That's why we put the digital billboard on the digital billboard in front of the store. It's a community that travels a lot. They're going to and from work. They're going from home to meet friends or do whatever. And so you want to get the message to them at the time that they may or may not be looking for it. And if we put the right message on the board, that is really hard. So what it was last summer when gas prices were really high, you know, we put messages about, hey, come get, you know, the cheapest gas in town, right? People in the know knew, and kind of, oh, hey, that's kind of cheeky, I'll go in there. So you really have to get to understand your community and really lean into it, and just understand how they consume around you, but then also kind of what's going to stick with media. You know, again, we find our Muskegon audience is less of an online community. You know, they're not going to Weed Maps as much. They're not consuming digital as much. And you would think in this day and age, and look, I'm my bias, I'm on my phone, I'm on my computer, I'm always consuming digital. And we have found that not always the most effective. So how do I get in front of that consumer? I have to try a whole bunch of different channels.
No, I think that's really good. One of the things that Michelle always says is, you don't want to pray and spray, but I like the fact that you guys kind of went and expanded and tried all the different channels to see, like, which ones would work best for you, because it's hard, especially when you're breaking into, like, a new location and, you know, new demographics, all of that, to try to figure out, like, what the consumer wants. So this is
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know, like, in Muskegon, a lot of dispensaries have went out of business because they're all like boom, boom, boom right next to each other. And it, like you were saying, can be just about price. So everybody keeps lowering their price, and it's like you're not going to make any money, and then you go out of business. And so I like that you guys are not like on those blocks that there's like 10 dispensaries. Like you're kind of out on your own a little, and then so like you have that opportunity to like get a different crowd and stuff. So
And we have honestly, really, to the detriment of my CEO, we've always really tried to stay away from the race to the bottom. 10 pre-rolls for $1, and the quality, and it's trying to get consumers to understand that you do pay for a little bit more for quality, and there is a quality high. And yes, a $1 pre-roll is going to get you high, but it's how you get high, and it's hard to explain to somebody who's on a budget, who's saying, you know what, I can get 10 pre-rolls for $1, or you mean I could get 2 for 10, those, but getting them to understand, hey, that's going to be a better product. And so we've deliberately stayed away from the race to the bottom. I think what it does is build out loyalty. I think we've got a lot of strong, loyal customers who come back again and again, who build a relationship with the bud tender. I like to tell myself that if the township of Muskegon or any other of the cities and townships in Michigan did it over, they would say, maybe I won't do 10 licenses on the same block.
Right.
Like,
that would be nice.
Yes, it sounds good that they're all going to make them millions of dollars in taxes, but at the end of the day, when they go out of business, having 4 or 5 buildings sit empty on a row doesn't add to the city. And so I think, again, I put on my rose-colored glasses, and I think that cities and townships would approach it differently, and I think they'd lean into it and work with them. I'm proud to say, and I don't believe we've had any major problems with the township. We haven't had major problems with the police. Cannabis does not create this crime wave that's overtaken Muskegon or any other city that we're in. And I also think that like having 10 on the same block, look, you wouldn't want 10 although it seems like in some cities, you wouldn't want 10 Starbucks on the same block. You wouldn't allow 10 McDonald's on the same block. So I think there was a little bit of a land grab with greediness, thinking that, if I have 10 cannabis dispensaries, I'm just going to mint money from all of them. And so I think, to your point, yes, being outside of the main realm, a little bit harder to get a customer who's used to going to those 10, but if they don't want to fight through 4 or 5 empty buildings, we offer a great refuge and great product pricing, all of that.
Right. Yeah.
Are there any other states that you guys are trying to break into, or that you're wanting to have like some new locations in?
Yeah, so we are later this summer going to be opening up in Illinois, about an hour north of Chicago. We're also looking at several other states that are on the precipice of going to rec. They're starting with med like everybody else, and then quickly going to rec. And that's the other thing I would tell all these legislators. And I understand from a perception point of view, you go in with rec thinking it's medicinal, and very quickly it really moves to the recreational side, because I always tell people, like, I can't think of another product that is identical that's sold as recreational and medical.
Right.
Granted, yes, okay, so you might have a higher dose, but in the basis, it's still the same product.
Right.
And just because we slap it as medical, it's perceived as, that it's better for you. And people will medicate with anything. Look, if I think a Coca-Cola before bed is going to help me sleep better, I'm self-medicating with a Coca-Cola. God bless you, go on and do it. If I think eating a THC CBD gummy before bed is going to help me sleep, it works for me. And so I think, yes, we're going, long-winded answer, yes, we're going to go into other states. We're looking at states that are newly licensing. One of the things, we're a fully vertical MSO, multi-state operator, right? So we have a grow in Benton Harbor that we use to create products for our store. We like that model. So we're looking at other states where we can replicate the MSO model, where we can grow it, we can process it, we can get it out to our stores, and we can sell it wholesale as well. So, the nice thing about half the states are still open for us to really go and create, the dream everybody's going after in cannabis, that national brand, right? Everybody wants to be the Starbucks of it, us as well. And it's just, slower going just because there's just so many regulations.
Of course, yeah. So where can we see your other products?
We've got a small little wholesale group that goes out and sells into other dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we're blessed and cursed with the problem that we can't produce enough for our own stores. That selling it for others is harder. So we're
Yeah.
actively really trying to look at how do we increase our capacity to go
Right.
sell into other stores and really grow out that wholesale business. As a marketer, my dream is that you cover the entire state of Michigan. You walk in and you find one of our brands in
Right.
every single dispensary in town, right? You go to a gas station, you can go find Starbucks coffee. You go to the grocery store, you can find a Starbucks coffee. You go to the airport. So that's ultimately my dream, at least within the dispensary realm. Let's stay a little, grounded to earth a little bit.
Right.
But my dream would be that across Michigan, you find a NOBO product. We have 3 or 4 different brands. So whether it's a NOBO product or a Mischief product or a Rolling Thunder product, we want you to go find our products in a dispensary across the state.
Mm-hmm. How many dispensaries are you in besides your own?
We're probably in like 4 or 5 other ones. And
Okay.
again, it's just a limit of available product.
Yeah.
And, again, getting back to Michigan being a big state and the rules around,
Mm-hmm.
how you transport cannabis doesn't make it as easy as if I was selling latex balloons or something, right? If I was selling latex balloons, I could have my trunk full of them. The state kind of frowns on our salespeople having products staying in the car for various reasons, and I totally get it. But having to go back to Benton Harbor and then go up to the Upper Peninsula or going over to Detroit, it's not an easy thing to kind of do, and then transporting it. So we're working through the kinks on wholesale and getting across the state.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you said that you've had some great marketing success with trying these different avenues. What would you say you've gotten the most traction on? I know you said the sign and then SMS, maybe not so much. Have you
Well, no,
done?
SMS not so much in Muskegon. In our other towns where we are, it's fun for me as a marketer and an old school marketer. I have gray hair and almost no hair. This market is really receptive to email and SMS. For a long time, I talk to my kids. They rarely open email, but they open up SMS. Email and SMS does really well
Mhm.
in driving people into the store. And the fun thing about that as a marketer is I can really track it a lot more.
Mhm.
In Michigan, the other thing is billboards. But right now, there's such an oversaturation of cannabis
Mhm.
billboards that there's almost blindness, right?
Yep.
You probably driving into work, even driving down Apple Avenue, you probably couldn't tell me 3 or 4 billboards you saw. Like
Yeah.
and especially with their cannabis space, you can't remember because we're so restricted. I can't tell you anything. They're all branding, they're all awareness. And
Yep.
so I can't really tell you anything. And so, how do I count the lift out of them? But for us, a lot of it is stunt based as well. And I don't mean negative stunt based. So things that work well are vendor
Yep.
in other dispensaries, vendor days in our dispensaries work well. Email and SMS work well. Believe it or not, and this one shocked me, and I sometimes blame it on Michigan, our Southwest Michigan and Benton Harbor areas, radio works really well. And I feel like a snob saying this, that I get in a car and I listen to streaming or I'll listen to podcasts, but we get great response and we tie it to our website so we know when people hear it and we see traffic at our website. And we try to loosely time together, but we get a great response from radio. And so it's fun to see that kind of happening. And with the restrictions in cannabis, we're trying various things, ads in men's and women's restrooms in bars, right?
Mhm.
I've got a little bit of a captive audience. Can I get enough cycles that you're off your phone for a minute or two that I can get my brand in front of you?
Right.
We do a lot of couponing. We'll do a lot of like coasters in bars,
Mhm.
the old school bar marketing, right? So it's hey, what am I going to drink? Well, you get a Budweiser coaster. Well, we work with a bunch of locations to give our coasters out that have our location. They have a promo on them, but this industry is really promo driven. So it's how do we put as many promos in front of the
Mhm.
customer really? And they allow us to track them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned coupons. Have you had some good success with doing mailers and that type of thing, having people bring stuff back into the store?
We haven't done any mailers yet, and that's
Mm.
one of the debates of me and I will say some of the younger people within the company. I never check my mailbox is what they say. Me, I still look at them. So it's that debate. So if we want to reach an older demographic, probably, but we do have guerrilla teams that are out in Muskegon when they clean up the lake, when there's the arts fest, and we're respectful. We're not giving stuff out to families with kids. We'll try to find the adults. We aren't giving out samples or doing anything like that. But yeah, we see success with coupons. The low end of that is that it's easy to track when they bring them back in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conversation point when it says, "Oh, I forgot that coupon I got at the beach." At least it creates a conversation. Our bud tenders and our receptionists can kind of drill into that. So it's a tangible way for me to track it. There's the famous advertising quote that says 50% of my marketing spend is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. Right. So we try to do, nobody ever walks in and says, "Hey, I saw your billboard and I stopped in." They don't even say, "Oh, I liked what I saw on your sign, so I stopped in." Trying to glean those nuggets from a customer is hard. A coupon, a promo, something like that allows us to at least have a little bit of tracking to understand what works and doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. How are you tracking the radio? Are you
So
doing a special offer or how are you handling that?
So some of it is special offer. Hey, go in and mention XYZ code and get this. The other thing that we track is we know when the ads play. So right now it's 8:01. So we know an ad played at 8:01. We'll see a spike in visits to our website. And it's hard. Is it perfect science? No, but it's hard to deny that if we have a radio spot that talks about our website, hey, go order online or learn more, and then we see a spike at 8:01, we're going to attribute a lot of it to the fact that somebody heard that. We do a lot of geofencing, a lot of geo-targeting, so we can know when somebody was listening to the radio, even on their phone. If they're streaming, we can know when they're listening and know when they come in.
So marketing cannabis is hard, obviously.
Fun. It's fun.
What would you say is your biggest challenge when it comes to, I would probably assume you're saying just the limitation of what you can and cannot say, but what would you say?
Well, there's so many, and it depends on the day of the week, right? Let me give you a little crazy one. What is a dispensary called in Michigan? A provisioning center. You can't market it as a dispensary.
Yeah.
Your customers call it a dispensary. Internally, you call it a dispensary. But if you look at the language at the CRA, it's a provisioning center.
Yeah.
What the heck is a provisioning center from an out-of-state visitor, somebody who's new to it, and you've just, what is a dispensary, right? So part of it is that's a weird one. And then when I go into Michigan, when I leave Michigan and go to Illinois, they're dispensaries. Colorado, they're dispensaries. So that's just a weird, funny conundrum. One day we'll kind of learn why they decided to get tied into that. Yes, there's the challenge of kind of available channels. I can't go buy space on Google in a legal way,
right,
like everybody else can. And yes, there are various companies that will say, "Oh, I can get you onto Google and you have to do it this way." And that's just not worth it. Also, the changing tide. So one day I'll post something on Instagram and it'll be fine. And then the next day, Instagram will take it down and no explanation. I believe it looks very similar, has the same content. It's not people smoking. It's not telling you that cannabis will solve all your ills and make you rich. It's just the whims of the channels. And then what we talked about at the very beginning is there are still some people who just don't want cannabis advertising around near them because, advertising just corrupts everybody. And, we get advertising for a lot of other products that don't have an impact. So the hard part is just understanding the challenges and how to kind of work within them, even though they're constantly changing.
Right. Do you feel that Instagram is your best social media channel, or are you on LinkedIn as well?
We do LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And we're constantly, earlier we talked about, we're constantly testing what messages work well because you can't sell on Instagram. It's really all brand building. It's that lifestyle awareness. It's that end, but you can't show anybody smoking. And then at the end of the day, if you look at dispensary, we're guilty of it too. You show this gorgeous nug. Well, if you pull up 5 different dispensary or cannabis center Instagrams, you'll see that they have pictures of nug. And if you don't know the dispensary, all the nug looks the same a lot of the time. and not a lot of people can discern it, but that's the way we have to. So for brand building and awareness, we really lean into Instagram. LinkedIn helps us get the business side of it. In Michigan, in Illinois, LinkedIn gets a lot more to the consumers for an interesting reason. It tells our business story, and then we get a fairly decent traction on Facebook as well. And I think to your point earlier, Michelle, I think there's an older population that is looking, learning, wanting to understand. And I think one of the challenges we have is dispensaries, provisioning centers have a mystery around them. Ooh, what's going to happen when I go in there? Am I going to get high immediately? Is it, just black lights and, groovy posters? Like, people don't know, right? You know what to do when you go into a grocery store. You know what you're going to get when you get into a coffee shop. But dispensaries, people don't know. And so I think they look, and that's why you'll see we post a lot of what the insides of our dispensaries look like, so that you're not scared of the environment. So those are some of we use all of the channels for various reasons. And again, to the point that Olivia talked about earlier, we're just testing it all to see where it sticks.
Yeah. And I think too, like there's different levels of dispensaries, right? Like there's kind of trashy ones, and then there's nice, like high quality. And I feel like that's what NOBO is, because I've been in there and wow, this is like really nice, and so it's kind of really talking to that target audience too. Who are you pulling? If it's like kind of not super clean and rough areas, it's just really understanding your audience is so important.
You want your customer to feel safe no matter what the business, right? You're not, and again, I'm not trying to pick on any of them, but when you put 10 dispensaries on a row in a block, and then one or two go out and buildings are empty, and then you get into them, and if you're not making the money to keep the upkeep, you're not incentivized to come back if you don't feel safe. It doesn't feel clean. It's not a good shopping environment. And really what we strive to do is provide that good shopping environment, because we think that you'll spend the time to really get what you want, but you'll also tell your friends and you'll come back. And that's the key thing. You may go in and say, great, I got 10 pre-rolls for $1, but I didn't feel like I was going to live through the experience. That's a harder thing to do versus, hey, I'm getting a great deal at a good price and I feel safe and comfortable, and the bud tender listened and it didn't feel like a factory, like, okay, come on. So that's really the experience that we want to deliver to people, is a safe, comfortable education. Ask us questions. If you've never been into a dispensary, ask the bud tender, what is shatter? What is wax? And again, if you're new, that's not where you're starting. Or if you are, you're a hardy soul. But we want that environment. We're not just there to make the money. We're there to educate, because if you feel educated, then you're going to come back and you're going to try and you're going to want to know more about the product, and that helps all of us.
Yeah. Did you do any big promotions for 420, or did you have an event, or?
Yeah, so each store had a big door opening sale. We sold 42 ounces for $42 for the first 150 customers, and that moves the needle, that gets people in there. We tried to make an event out of it, so we had in our Edwardsburg store, we have food trucks, and we have cornhole at all the games, people to hang out. Again, the CRA doesn't like people lingering and loitering around dispensaries. They help us on 420 of, okay, we're trying to make it a celebration. We had a band. We did in our Benton Harbor, we did a radio remote where we had the morning crew come out and you can come and see them. Edwardsburg, Muskegon, we had a prize wheel and we had food. And so we try to pump it up. We try to get the good deals out there that we're not going to lose our shirt, but people have a naturally associated 420 as like Black Friday. So they're coming with money. They're coming to stock up. What we try to do is get the word out that there's going to be great deals, but we also ran deals earlier in the month, because what happened is we find that people are like, yeah, 420 was fun last year, but the line was long, or they didn't have what I wanted. So we tried to condition them to come in even early. We ran some early 420 deals. You know, hey, we're going to have this kind of deal on gummies on 420, but you can get it on the 13th. Just broadening it out. We still like the excitement. Yes, we still had people and we still wanted them to hang out. But, you know, if people are just looking for the deal and don't want to, I'm not a Black Friday shopper because the crowds scare the heck out of me. But now that it moved online, we don't have that luxury. So we want to, you know, spread out the times that you can go get the deals.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's the same thing as Black Friday. Before, we were waiting out line outside with camping and doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, for a TV that you're maybe saving $100 on, and yes, saving money is good, but is it worth it to spend 4 hours in a Michigan Thanksgiving morning waiting for 100 off a TV, but you feel like you're getting a great deal? Hey, look, a cannabis consumer, like every other consumer, wants to get the biggest bang for their buck. And that's what we saw on 420. We like to feed into it. We even do post 420 sales so that people who feel like they missed out or didn't get everything they wanted could come back and not feel like, oh, everything is so expensive today. So it's, again, having the respect for the consumer and just giving them the avenue, knowing that they like and want to buy at a great price.
So with the SMS and the email marketing, seeing each location is a little different. Are you segmenting those like text messages and emails just because each store has different offers and things like that?
Correct. And different offers, different audience, different ways, different time of day, you know, all of those things. That's the fun part about digital and the fun part about SMS and those type of things. You can try to really hone in on when and how and who is getting the message. If I know that you have never bought gummies, well, it's going to waste my money if I send you a message about our great gummy sale. So why? And so we'll segment by store, we'll segment by product type, we'll segment by time of day, you know, whatever, again, pulls the lever that helps to increase, you know, if it gets in 5, 10, 15, 20 more customers, it's going to be successful. So yeah, that we try to segment store by store, product by product across the line.
I'm just curious, what platform do you use? Are you using like Alpine IQ or?
Yeah, we use Alpine IQ, and I love Alpine IQ. And before we launched with Alpine, you know, we met with everybody, and I have to say, I have no relation. Other than I am a customer of them. I will admit I'm a happy customer. You know, they go above and beyond on their customer service. Their platform's easy to use. We've had very little downtime. They have good analytics for us to dig into, great customer service. So I couldn't be happier with Alpine. And again, I have no dog in the race other than I'm a happy customer.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we like Alpine IQ too. Just the user interface is just so nice.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I mean, that's half the battle. Like as a marketer, like I don't want to spend my day trying to find what I want. I want to find what I want and then tear it apart and analyze it. So the Alpine presents the info really in a great way and makes it a lot easier for us to dig through.
Right. So do you have a team that's like doing all of that for you, or you have employees that are doing
Traditional cannabis, it's 2 people. It's myself, and I have a great teammate, Caroline Borst, who's on the team, and she's my godsend. We bounce things off each other. We roll up our sleeves, get into the trenches. We work with a bunch of different outside design firms because it's the physical assets, the creating creative, but that's really it. But it's really Caroline and myself who will sit down with our teams at retail and say, okay, what promotions are going to work, what products are working, you know, what are you hearing from customers? One of the things we always tell them to do is talk to customers. Like, what are they asking for? You know, we know what we make, we see what sells, but are they asking for something that we don't have? The fun thing about cannabis, getting to it earlier, is I'm a looky-loo. I'll go into the Gap, Lululemon, wherever, and I may walk out without buying something, and that may happen a couple times a month. Very few times do we ever see customers who walk into a provisioning center and not buy. Even if we don't have 100% what they want, they'll find a substitute. You know, and nobody casually browses a dispensary or provisioning center. Whereas how many times you've gone to a cute little boutique shop down the road and you're like, oh, I'm just looking. No, we don't have a lot of tire kickers, but we do get to learn from people who come in and they say, oh, you don't have X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I tell my bud tenders, like, pay attention to that. Do we not have it just because we're out and it's sold really well, so we need to reorder it? Or, hey, we've never carried that product. Or the other side is we carried that product, but you know what? There were only like 3 customers that ever bought it, right? So you have all of those things. So we try to get as much input from our retail teams as possible to help inform kind of what we carry, what we do, and how we message stuff.
Great, great. Yeah. I have a quick question. I know I'm notorious for getting us off track, but I have a client that is hemp, and they are really wanting to get into the dispensaries. Now, is that something that you have products that are just hemp?
We have some CBD only products,
Okay.
and hemp products. The problem is, to be honest with you, and it doesn't mean we can't have an offline conversation about it. My biggest problem is I think it gets confusing because I can go into the grocery store, I can go into CVS, I can go into Walgreens and buy CBD based or hemp based product. And when it's in a dispensary, then it creates the confusion of, is it psychoactive?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And so I think we've always drawn the line in the sand of, hey, we just want to carry the THC based products. It's easier for customers to understand. We paid a lot for our license. We really want to do, really, promote that side of it. We don't want to confuse the industry, because the last thing I want somebody to think is, oh, that that CBD or that hemp-based elixir that I bought at NOBO, oh, I now see it at Walgreens. And like, well, it may or may not. And, and so we back away. We do carry a lot of dog-based or pet-based CBD products, but it's harder, I think, with the other one, just to, again, to keep the confusion out from the consumer, because I don't want any consumer to say, well, if I'm buying CBD here, is it psychoactive? What's the difference between the one at Walgreens? And I don't want to have to be the one that, I don't mind, but I don't want to be the one who has to educate you on like the joys of CBD and not worry about, not have you understand the joy of THC as well.
Right.
Yeah. And that was like my thoughts too, is that, well, why would they want that when they can get, the good stuff, right? Versus like, I'm at the pharmacy, oh, they got CBD, or, wherever, or like a chiropractor or things like that. So, cool. Good.
Yeah, I just think it creates confusion to the consumers. What is CBD to what is THC and all of those things. And so we just try to stay out of that race at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Daniel, I know you mentioned for 420, you guys had some pre-sales and then you did some post-sales. What have you found as far as like doing your offers? Have you noticed that it works better to do those like more month-long campaigns, or do you think it works better to shorten it up and just do a weekend sale every week? Because we kind of have dispensaries that do a little bit of both.
We have this debate internally, going back and forth. Obviously, having a month-long campaign is a lot easier. My long-winded answer will be, I think it is better to do burst campaigns, maybe 2 to 4 a month, not necessarily always on weekends, because weekends people have more time, so they gravitate in. But what I find is that the cannabis consumer is curious. They like to explore, they like new, they like to shop. And so if I give you the same campaign over the month, you're like, I'll look at what somebody else has. Whereas if I see that you're doing something for, Groundhog's Day, you're doing something for Flag Day, you're doing something for National Ice Cream Day, it gives them a reason to kind of look at it, pay attention, and open that text or email, and it'll seem new or fresh versus all month long, it's wacky hair day. If you come in with your hair dressed up, you're going to get X, Y, and Z. And so I think for us, it's kind of more those burst campaigns that capture the attention and give somebody a reason to say, oh, yeah, I want to go back into NOBO, versus, oh, I saw that campaign earlier in the month.
Yeah.
And we'll lean into, like, this month, June is going to be is Gay Pride Month, right? LGBTQ. So we support that, and we'll do month-long kind of acknowledgement of that. But at the same point, it's also June's Father's Day. So we'll probably have a Father's Day promo.
Right.
And again, learning this audience is what's going to gravitate with them to move them to get off their couch and come in.
Right.
Great.
we talked a whole bunch about a lot of things, but I know at the core of everything, it sounds like you guys really like to be a pillar in the communities and you really like understanding your audience. And so I know that you guys have been doing like the concert series. Is there anything else that you guys like to do to just embed yourselves within the communities, whether it's in Michigan or Colorado? Like what have you guys
Yeah,
done?
absolutely. One of the things that we wanted to get over is we didn't want cannabis to be seen as like the deep pockets, right? Every time we open, we get 1,000 people. Hey, can you donate here? Can you donate there? And it's really interesting. The ones that always crack me up is like when the Little League or the AYSO soccer, and I'm like, wait a second, you don't want me in your neighborhood,
Right.
but you're okay with me hanging a NOBO provisioning center banner at your kid's soccer game. There's something not, and we are very adamant. We are 21 and plus, and we don't. So we'll explain them. We've had townships, we've had people say, "Oh, sponsor our Easter egg roll." And as much as we'd love to be in that community, that's not our customer. We don't ever want to pretend it's our customer. I don't want to get
Right.
pointed to like, "Oh, you're trying to get them." No. So getting to it is one of the things we like to do is we like to get the community involved with us. So we'll do the food drives, we'll do roundups at purchase, and then
Mhm.
that money will go to a charity within the community,
Mhm.
right? So in Muskegon, we've supported like the animal shelters. So if your purchase is $1.98, give us the 2 cents, and we're going to give the 2 cents to the animal shelter. Around Thanksgiving and holiday, we will do personal care drives. Everybody does a food drive, and we understand that. But what's missing is people may not be able to get toothpaste, diapers, formula. So we'll have people come in and bring in formula. We'll have big containers and say, hey, donate personal care things. Then we'll take those to the homeless shelters or the family shelters and
Mhm.
really, be able to help them out in that way. And so it's working with the communities to help the communities. And so if we do a program in Muskegon, it's going to help it's going to help a community organization in Muskegon. If we do it in Benton Harbor, it will help in Benton Harbor. In with Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, we do raise money, and that goes to a Michigan-based organization that helps women across Michigan, women and men across Michigan with breast cancer. That's probably one of the big outliers of kind of the community one, but that's going to impact every community. But we try to, as much as possible, ingrain ourselves in the community by involving our customers and getting them to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that because I know a lot of times when you're at these gas stations or stores and it's like, oh, will you donate? And it's yes, but I like the fact that those are like impacting in my hometown or like a
Hmm.
place where I know needs help. So that's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Look, most of our employees live in the cities in which they operate, so they're
Mhm.
proud of it. We want to give back in that way, and we want to involve our customers. It's not just a one-way street; it's a two-way, and it builds up that goodwill we believe with our customers that like, hey, when I shop at NOBO, it's going to help the people around you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Love it.
So, if you had to give any advice to someone who's new to the provisioning centers or dispensaries in the marketing realm, what would be your 2 cents that you would like to give to them?
Don't forget, although we're selling cannabis, it's still a real business.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're selling widgets, whether you're selling cokes or whatever, it's still a real business. You'll have your ups and your downs. Um, be super creative, and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will laugh. We're not curing cancer. Have fun. Look at how you can serve your customer and your community to make everyone's day better. And that's what we get to do every single day. And so, learn that you've got a lot of obstacles. There are a lot of people who don't want you doing what you're doing. There's a lot of, avenues are closed out to you. But if you think about things differently, if you approach it with a smile and a positive attitude, you're going to have a lot of success, and it's going to be enjoyable, and it's have fun.
Mm-hmm.
People like to enjoy our products, and then we want them to have fun, be responsible. But it's a brand new industry. We're all going to look back at this in 10 years and say, can you believe that's how we used to do it? My
Mm-hmm.
dream is that we look back and say, can you believe Michigan made us call them provisioning centers? Like,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think if the three of us who are steeped in it in Michigan, we referred to them as dispensaries,
Right.
and that's not what the law says. If you look in the CRA's handbook, you can't refer to it as a dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of thing. Let's have fun. Let's know that you're in a business that is going to be radically changing. I worked at a small little startup years and years ago called Apple Computer, and what it started out as then does not look like what it looks like today.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. We're going to get to the point that maybe even dispensaries go away, right? You have liquor stores, but you can buy liquor in 1,000 other places. You can buy cigarettes in 1,000 other places. You can buy Cokes in 1,000 other places. Who doesn't say that you couldn't go into your local coffee shop and they might have a locked dispenser that has pre-rolls or gummies, and you don't have to jump through hoops to go buy it. So that's part of, yes, what I would tell somebody is like, this industry is going to get better, be part of it, think creatively about it, and defend the right that the voters of Michigan and Colorado and several other states said, hey, this is legal. We'll get to the federal stuff later, but the people of Michigan have said, we don't mind, we want this, and it's proven to deliver revenue and opportunities. And it has not turned our cities into wastelands, run by drug cartels.
Right. Yeah. And it's opening up. If you look at the map, it's holy cow, it's constantly changing, and new states are approving, and so
well, even look at Michigan. There were townships and cities that said absolutely not. And now several years later, they're looking and saying, hey, that township made a lot of tax money from this. I better open, I'm going to allow them, right? And so even within Michigan, which is legal, the people who said no are saying, now I see the positive benefits of it. So, it's happening on the small level and the macro level. States are opening up, but also other parts of the states that it is legal are opening up too.
Yeah. I know when we decided to niche down and really specialize in cannabis, it was one of those things like, are we going to offend some people because we're doing this? But because we just felt such a passion for it, that I'm like, we got to go all in if we're going to do this, and we have had certain clients who like, we can't work with you because you work with cannabis companies. I'm like, okay, and that's fine. But thinking about now, like, things have turned around so much that where I remember when the chamber, everybody was like kind of like down on us for doing, I don't think that's a good idea, but okay, do whatever you want to do. And now it's like, now they're having events and talking to the team at the dispensary is going to educate us, teach us like how. And so it's really kind of like cool how it flips around.
Well, and there's always that conversation you got to explain to your parents what you're doing, right? Oh, wait a second, what? My career is now built off of cannabis, and sometimes it's done with pride with them. Sometimes it's like, I don't understand what you do. It's telling your neighbors. I'm sure, Michelle, as you made the change, you're telling your neighbors, oh, we're doing this with our agency, and they look down the nose of like, oh, you're making the dumbest mistake, and to each their own. Our job is to promote the well-being and goodness that it brings with it while maintaining very straightforward, legal, law-abiding businesses. In fact, I have no data to it. I know that most of the cannabis companies are much more adherent to the laws that we have to than a lot of other industries, because it seems that the penalties are just much more punitive. And I'm not saying other businesses are cutting corners, but like, we live and die by our compliance. We live and die by making sure that we're putting out products. And plus, pick up your can of beer. It does not have 4 labels on it that tell you where it was grown and where the barley came from, where the wheat came from. Look at the warning labels on the back of a cannabis product, and you're like, really? Like, we're so scared of it. So that's part of the thing that we'll look back on and say, oh my God, why did we ever do that?
Right. Yeah. I think this has been great, and it's fun to like chat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for waking up early to talk to us.
Of course. Thank you. I'm always happy to talk to other fellow promoters, right? We're all in this together, no matter what. That's why I always tell all the other dispensary owners or provisioning center owners, like, yeah, we compete on a day-to-day basis, but we've got a bigger competitor that we've got to go fight against. So let's not get blinded by the little things.